Hey everyone, and welcome back to Animal Notebook. I am absolutely pumped to have you here for today's explainer, where we're going to dive deep into hippos, the heavyweight giants. You know, when most of us think of a hippo, we kind of picture this lazy, chubby, gentle giant just peacefully floating around in a river. Well, as you're going to see today, the reality is far more intense, bizarre, and just flat out fascinating than the myth. We are talking about a creature that is literally built for extreme survival.
Okay, let's look at our roadmap for today. We're going to hit 1. Meet the river horse. 2. Designed for the water. 3. Diet and nightlife. 4. Social life and aggression. 5. Ecology and conservation. And we'll wrap it all up with 6. Frequently asked questions.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, meet the river horse.
So, meet the common hippopotamus, native to sub-Saharan Africa. The name hippopotamus is actually ancient Greek for river horse. But hey, don't let their slightly comical, pig-like proportions fool you for a second. These guys are the third largest land mammals on Earth, right behind elephants and white rhinos. Adult males can weigh anywhere from 1,500 to a staggering 3,200 kilograms. To put that in perspective, that's over 7,000 pounds. They are heavily built, they're heavily armored, and they are incredibly formidable.
And that brings us to our first major myth. When you look at a hippo, it's so easy to assume they must be related to pigs or, I don't know, maybe even bears. But actually, scratch that. That is entirely wrong. Biologically speaking, their closest living relatives are cetaceans. Yeah, we're talking about whales, dolphins, and porpoises. They actually share a common aquatic ancestor and split off on the evolutionary tree roughly 55 million years ago. Kind of completely changes how you look at them, doesn't it?
Moving right along to section 2, designed for the water.
Hippos are famous for their semi-aquatic lifestyle. They spend up to 16 hours a day completely submerged in rivers, lakes, and swamps, basically just trying to regulate their body heat under that harsh African sun. But their physical adaptations? Absolutely incredible. Their eyes, ears, and nostrils sit right on the very top of their skull. It's basically a built-in periscope. This lets the hippo breathe, hear, and see everything happening above the surface, all while hiding that massive 3,200-kilogram body almost entirely underwater. Oh, and their eyes have a reflective layer called the tapetum lucidum, giving them killer night vision.
Now here's where things get really weird. You've probably heard of their blood sweat. Hippos secrete this thick, reddish, oily fluid from their nearly hairless skin. But the crazy part is, it's neither blood nor sweat. It is a completely unique biological fluid containing hipposudoric acid, which gives it the red color, and norcamine, which is orange. When you combine those, you get nature's ultimate 2-in-1 package, a highly effective natural sunscreen and a powerful moisturizer. And as if that wasn't enough, it acts as a heavy-duty antibiotic to protect their skin from infections in those murky waters.
Let's get into section 3, diet and nightlife.
So, despite spending all day in the water, hippos are actually terrestrial grazers. When the sun sets and the temperature drops, they haul themselves out of the water and follow these well-worn paths to flat grasslands. They'll trek up to 10 kilometers in a single night just to forage. But here's the really surprising part. For an animal that can weigh over 3 tons, their diet is pretty modest. They eat about 35 to 40 kilograms of short grass a night. Now, sure, that sounds like a lot to us, but it's actually quite small for their body mass. They only get away with it because hanging out in the water all day takes barely any energy.
But whatever you do, do not mistake low energy for slow. Just look at this number, 30 kilometers per hour. That is almost 19 miles per hour. Despite their massive bulk and those 4 stubby little legs, a hippo can absolutely sprint on land over short distances. Just to put that into reality for you, that is faster than the average human can run. If a hippo decides to charge, it covers ground with terrifying speed. There's literally no outrunning that.
Check out this next number, 150 degrees. That is the exact angle a hippo can unhinge and open its jaws. So when you see a hippo yawning, it isn't tired. No way. That is a straight-up display of dominance. That 150-degree gape reveals a mouth about 1.2 meters or 4 feet wide, and it shows off these enormous canine teeth or tusks that can grow over 50 centimeters long. And remember, these guys are herbivores. Those massive tusks aren't for chewing grass. They are weapons built strictly for combat.
Which perfectly sets up section 4, social life and aggression.
Hippos are super social, but they are fiercely territorial. They hang out in groups called pods, schools, or, and this is my absolute favorite, bloats. A bloat usually has about 10 to 30 individuals, though researchers have seen massive groups of over 200. These bloats are ruled by a dominant male who aggressively defends his patch of the river.
He shows everyone who's boss with loud vocalizations, those massive yawning displays we just talked about, and a little move called dung spraying. Yeah, he literally scatters his dung by spinning his tail like a propeller just to mark his territory.
Let's zoom out a bit for Section 5, Ecology and Conservation.
Hippos are what ecologists call keystone ecosystem engineers. It means they are absolutely irreplaceable. Their nightly grazing maintains the short grasslands that a ton of other species rely on. Their daily commute from the water to the land actually creates paths that channel rainfall and literally shape the landscape. And yep, all that dung they produce in the water, it acts as a massive natural fertilizer for rivers and lakes, fueling algae growth that sustains the whole fish population. But it's really important we note their conservation status is currently classified as vulnerable. They're facing massive threats from habitat loss, severe droughts, and illegal hunting, both for their meat and for those ivory-like teeth. Protecting them is absolutely crucial for the entire African ecosystem.
All right, Section 6, Frequently Asked Questions. Before we jump into these rapid-fire answers, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button right here on Animal Notebook.
Okay, let's tackle FAQ 1, which addresses the single biggest misconception out there. Can hippos swim?
The answer is a resounding no. Despite spending 16 hours a day in the water, their bodies are incredibly dense. They literally sink like stones. They don't swim. They walk, trot, gallop, or kind of bounce along the riverbed. When they need a breath, they just push off the bottom to reach the surface. They usually do this every 3 to 5 minutes, but if they have to, they can hold their breath for a full 5 minutes.
Moving to FAQ 2, a question we get asked all the time. Are hippos dangerous to humans?
Yes, absolutely. As we covered, they are highly aggressive and territorial, especially when they're in the water. If a boat or a person accidentally enters their space, they will attack without a second thought. Objective estimates show they're responsible for over 500 human fatalities every single year. That makes them one of the most dangerous large animals on the entire African continent. You've got to respect their space.
Let's look at their softer side with FAQ 3. Can baby hippos nurse underwater?
Believe it or not, yes, they totally can. It's an amazing biological feat. Calves are actually born in the water, and they have an innate instinct to fold their ears down and close their nostrils to hold their breath, so they can nurse from their mothers on land or completely submerged underwater. Mothers are fiercely protective during this vulnerable time, often letting the calves rest right on their backs in deeper water just to keep them safe from crocodiles and other predators.
And that brings us to our final question. FAQ 4. Do they make noises underwater? Yes, they do, and it is a wild phenomenon. They produce all these bellows, grunts, and wheezes, but incredibly, they communicate amphibiously. That means they produce sounds that travel through the air and the water at the exact same time. They're one of the very few land mammals on Earth capable of doing that. But I want to leave you with one final thought today. We've seen how perfectly adapted and essential these giants are. If an animal this powerful, this incredibly engineered, and this deeply rooted in our world's ecosystems is vulnerable to extinction, what does that ultimately mean for the future of the rivers of Africa? Think about that for a second. Thank you so much for joining me on the Animal Notebook channel today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.